So we'll pick, we'll look at some of the pillars. So IRIMINAGE is a good one of the pillars of Aikido. Traditionally, if he was attacking Yokomanuchi, that's going to come in, yeah. So this is a simulation of a sword cut. This is where this is from, okay? This is a straight line here. This is coming in an elliptical thing and he's cutting either to my temple or down through my neck, okay? But this is a straight line. Now if I'm defending against this in my kata, one for me, and I'm making my kind of traditional IRIMINAGE kind of whatever version I'm going to do, there's millions of these, that's fine. And it teaches me a lot about the core of the technique. One more for me. But, you know, the important bit about IRIMINAGE, whichever version you're going to do, is this. The entering through the body. That's the critical bit. The rest of it is you can do it many, many different ways. However, if you're just training in traditional kata, one more, look, the way I'm blocking this, because it's a straight line, is different to what you're more likely to see in the street. Very rarely is anyone going to attack you with that arm shape for a start, okay? Maybe if he's holding a bottle or something, or a weapon, there's going to be an element of that. But compared to the classic right-hander, 80-something% of people, 85% are right-handed, you just swing a haymaker for me, just the classic pub. Look at the shape of that. You're not going to do it with a straight arm, are you? It's going to be like that, isn't it? Yeah, okay? If I do that same body shape, and I'm blocking in the same way, even if I'm here, my body shape has to be different. My reaction to this has to be different. Otherwise, that's going to go around the block that I've trained against my yokoman, especially if I'm a little bit shallow. No one does a perfect technique every time, and I'm going to get knocked spark out. Which means all of a sudden now, my depth of entrance has to be much deeper. So that's just one little element of this, okay? Now, the whole flow, keep it yokoman for me, yeah. So this, and the nice flow, and the in and behind, and the, you know, whatever we want to do. There's millions of versions of this. You see, you can go in early and you can go underneath. That's quite nice if you're a short arse, you know? I'm sure every single Aikido person watching has got a different way that their dojo teaches it, but it's basically based upon receiving and making a flow. And the atemi as it comes in, quite often is this, I will say, I'm not being to be rude, but it's tokenistic. You're just pushing, you know, or you'll see this, you know. The problem with this is that quite often people will be so focused on the flow that you'll miss so you'll get this to happen. And he's being a good uke and he's moving his head away. This is no bloody good. It drives me around the bend. You will fight how you train. If you get used to doing this and you're never actually landing something, you'll do it one day and hit someone's forehead and you'll break your hand. Or you'll be 6 inches short. So for the sake of reality, especially if you've got a bit of experience, you know, if you're Jancha or you're a senior Q grade, you've got to start thinking about how would I apply this stuff. So keep with the yokoman. So here, I've got to move his head out of the way. I want his eyesight and I want his attention gone. I don't even have to hit him hard. Now I'm in deeper. Now I can do something different. Even if I'm doing my yokoman type flow, I'm cutting through and I can get in. You know, that's fine. So we'll just start off. I just want you to do a basic kata from yokoman, whichever version you want to do. Make sure you take the head out of the way. Let's at least look at this kata and try and get some practicality, and then do whichever version you do in your dojo. You know, you can go straight in if you want. Doesn't really matter. Okay? Let's have a play with that, and then let's look at what this is teaching us and see if we can apply this in a practical way. Okay. IRIMINAGE, you often hear it described as being a 20-year technique. Irimi, the three kanji literally mean enter through the body. So, not always, but quite often the Japanese names will give us a hint as to the heart of the technique. Some of them can be a bit misleading because it's a complicated language, but IRIMINAGE is obvious. You know, it's the 20-year technique. I think a lot of that is because the kata is dressed up in things that are overly complicated. You know, there's some things in it that are very difficult to pull off. And I admire people that can do the big flowing things. You've got to have really good ukes as well. It becomes a cooperative thing. The core of this, let's just, you know, if I want to get in behind him, which is what this is all about, and it's a basic of martial arts. If you can get behind someone, you're a lot safer than if you're in front, okay? If I'm just going to get through to here, and I'm not making any decent critical body movement, and I'm trying to pull him and move him around, just drop your weight a bit, man. Very, very hard. And we're about the same size. You know, he's better looking and younger than me, but, you know. If I make basic tenkai, if I make a basic tenkai and I'm coming in here and I drop my hips in, I've already got his balance. Because that pivot peels his toes. That spiral is lifting one hip, compressing the other, and it's peeling his feet. And that's it. That's not 20 years. That's a very simple concept. So for me, I think sometimes we need to make sure that when we're, you know, especially people that are teaching, you need to teach the kata, but you need to explain what the critical lesson is within that. Otherwise, you're just expecting people to follow stuff by rote and not telling them why. And that's all, you know, for me, that's almost an abuse of the hierarchy and abuse of being a sensei. You know, you've got to pass this stuff on. None of it's magic. It's all biomechanics. So this time now, just swing a right hander at me. So if I do this, he's already going to smack me in the gob. I've no body movement at all. So we know from our kata that I've got to step inside and make a tension if I want to get inside. So here, I've got some kind of shape. Now I can put something in here. My basic kata would just be to push this out of the way. That's fine. But you know, would I really do that? I think even if I can see him lining it up, I'm going to be more concerned about the arm, and I'm not even going to be looking. I'm just going to be throwing this out. So this is going to be just out and making sure I've made some contact. As long as this is out of the way. Now the danger is now, if I make my big flowing shape you often see in kata, is that I'm going to disengage to do this and go around. Very, very dangerous. One more, mate. So yeah, into this. I've got this, and I'm already trying to get to the outside. My intention, the whole point of this teach is to get to the outside. So I'm going to get through, and I'm going to move this through with my hip as I move to the outside. Here, I'm already turning his back towards me. If I'm in a lift or I'm in a close space, I now don't have to make the big shape. Now I'm already in behind. In this particular case, he's dropped forwards. That's fine. I've got a shape, you know. And again, now we're talking about the jutsu, we're talking about the applied version of this. This will be different depending on the situation. If he's got mates over there, I'll do one thing. You know, if we're in a lift, or you know, if we're out somewhere, you know, if I'm a policeman, I'm trying to, or a security guard, I'm trying to arrest and control, it'll be different to, you know, another situation. It has to be relevant. So from here, basic mechanics, I'm turning my hip, and there's this balance point. Thank you for standing in an awkward situation for so long. Good, okay. So let's just try this as a slight adaptation of the basic kata. So we've gone from a yokomanuch, which gives us a largely straight thing, but yeah, which gives me a comparatively easier thing to predict against. Now we've got something that can come around my guard. So I've got to get in, I've got to cage up. I'm getting rid of this. Now if you're tall, you can still do this. You know, there's versions where you can get in here. I'm too short for that. I don't have the body weight, you know. I prefer the underhook. I think it's a much safer idea. Bang, here. Hook, don't grab the gi, hook. If they're sweaty or whatever and they've got a t-shirt on, now get in behind. I'm behind, it doesn't matter what I do now. He's going forwards each time. That might happen, that's absolutely fine. Doesn't matter. We're still applying the lesson that the technique is teaching us to a situation that's a bit more realistic. One more for me. So, there. Hook it through, in behind. Look. I can do whatever I want. Have a little play. So again, there's probably people watching this that are already screaming, oh, that's not how you do IRIMINAGE. This is the thing, there's a million and one, every dojo will do it slightly differently, even in the same style. They'll have their basic kata that their sensei does, and it gets passed on by rote, and it's never questioned, and there's never, you know. I was always the one that, why are we doing that? And I got a reputation as being an awkward bugger. I wanted to know. You know, it is what it is. And the thing with something like this, you know, let's just say we're doing we'll call it a yokomanuch, but it's actually just the haymaker, the roundhouse, whatever you want to call it. You know, if we're doing this as our training methodology, and we're trying to train let's call it the IRIMINAGE principle, shall we? The idea of this tenkai going in and taking behind. If I can get behind, I have choices. In front, I am still in conflict. You know, I'm an older guy, 70-something kilos. If some big unit is, you know, if I can get behind, I'm off. And that's given me the opportunity to do that. It's given me the opportunity not to engage. You know, this is not mentioned enough.